Welcome, welcome. It is 2 o'clock Eastern, and super excited to be coming to you live today from Toronto, Canada. And my name is Edward Meador with Workies. I'm our strategic partnerships channel manager, work specifically within the home services division. And I'm really happy today to have Derek Hofrichter. There, I'm using my German skills quite well today, right, Derek?
That's right. Nice.
Derek from Service Business Evolution, which happens to be one of our newest strategic partners. And we're really, really excited about that. Derek is here today to share with everyone about how to fill the board with opportunities year round, which really focuses in on selling service agreements the smart way. And I know that this is something that's really, really important for many of you business owners that are joining us today. And if you are unfortunately unable to attend, we are recording this. So we'll be putting this on our website so that you can listen to it later at your own convenience. And we will be sending it out for all of you to share internally with the rest of your organizations. But Derek, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you joining us from today?
Thanks, Edward. I am joining from Phoenix, Arizona, where I've lived for the last 14 or 15 years, and we're enjoying the nice sunny February weather. That's why I live here in Phoenix. And I've been with SBE, Service Business Evolution, for coming up on 4 years. Prior to that, I owned and operated my own business. And then really my passion is for teaching, for helping, for assisting, for explaining concepts like maintenance agreements. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to hand it off to you. This is your time to shine. And I know you've, not that everyone wants to be PowerPointed to death today, but that's kind of the purpose for why we're here. But I know you're awesome. You're going to keep this, pretty exciting. And so I'm going to hand it over to you so that you can, knock us away with your knowledge. Impress us.
All right.
Derek.
Thanks, Edward. And I agree. I have a love-hate relationship with PowerPoint. Those who know me know that, but it helps to have something for us to look at. So we're going to talk about filling the board with opportunities year-round. And that's primarily going to be through a discussion of having a really, really strong maintenance program. So I'm going to go through what keeps most companies from having a strong maintenance agreement program. This is my experience with coaching and training HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies. A lot of times when we start working with them, they don't really have this strong program in place. It's been something they've thought about or started and stopped or had issues with and haven't really been able to get a good, strong, consistent one. It's not only about selling them, but it's actually fulfilling them on the backside where it's driving a revenue stream, where it is a revenue stream into the company via these maintenance visits. So let's start with a little bit of a story here of what problem we're trying to solve. And so this is from a real company. This company is larger than most of the companies that we work with, and we can see that by the call volume. But that's not really the point. The point is that if you're in a home service business, especially HVAC, your year tends to look something like this, some version of this. And this is a problem, right? Because how many technicians, how many people in the field do we need during the shoulder months, the low months? We could go through a couple of different calculations, but it's going to be somewhere around 7, right? So this company can fill the board for most of the year, roughly for about 7 people. This is just demand, right? So we're looking at demand calls. This is a graph of demand calls. But how many would they need to keep up with all the opportunity and to be at capacity here when in this graph the summer hits? Depending on where you work, you have different versions of this graph. For here, this would be the summer. They would need somewhere around 34. So how do you go from 7 to 34? Because if not, you're going to just completely waste the summer demand rush. You're not going to have the capacity, or you're going to have the capacity, and what are you going to do with all those techs the rest of the year as you're waiting around for for this opportunity to hit? Are they going to be sitting at home playing video games, just waiting for this moment? And so, how do you go from 7 to 34? You don't. It's just not possible. It's not a seasonal job. These are highly skilled employees. It's not like FedEx or Amazon who can hire Christmas season, holiday season drivers and then scale back down. It doesn't, with all the training and everything that goes involved, it doesn't work that way. So instead, what happens when you introduce a strong maintenance agreement program into the business? So again, these are real numbers. This isn't a made up scenario. These are real numbers from a business. And the only way for them to survive and actually stay in business, because of the differences between the off season and the demand season, was a maintenance. So now when we factor in the light green, which are maintenance calls, and the blue, which are one-time tune-ups, which are a marketing strategy to give us opportunities to sell more maintenances, now the year kind of levels out. Now there's not these wide peaks and valleys, or these wide discrepancies going on in the business. The board is full year round. Yes, there is still a rush of 1 or 2 months, but now how many technicians can we comfortably keep employed? We can keep fed. they can keep them busy. They can make a good living year round. Now for this company, 30 to 35. So now when that summer demand peak hits for a month or 2, maybe 3 months, they're in a prime position to actually capitalize on it. Part of capitalizing it is selling more maintenance agreements, and this is how a company actually scales up. For companies who just have that demand type of peak, they sort of find that the year repeats, the cycle repeats, and they're not scaling upwards. It's through the capturing of maintenance that they scale up. All right, keep the board filled. That's what a call volume looks like of a company that's keeping their board filled year round. Okay, so why then, if we can see, the problem that it solves, why do most companies then struggle with selling maintenance agreements? This comes from a lot of my personal experience over the last 4 years of working with many technicians, HVAC primarily, plumbers, electricians. And it starts at maybe a fundamental way that might surprise a lot of people, but they don't believe in them. They don't necessarily see the value to the homeowner. They don't see the value to themselves. They don't prioritize them, because when it really comes down to it, they don't believe in them. So when I'm working with a group of technicians or with a company, this is one of the very first conversations we have is, who is it that actually wins with a maintenance agreement? And the reality, it's a win-win-win. The business wins because we already looked at the graph. It's a survival thing, and it helps them keep staffed up year round and revenue streams coming in year round. So we know the business wins with maintenance agreements. The technician wins with maintenance agreements because now they have work to do year round. As we're going to talk about later, some of the best opportunities actually as a technician are on maintenance visits, not the demand visits, actually on the maintenance visits. And then customer wins. And we need to believe this. It's really hard to sell something that you don't believe in. I would almost say it's pretty close to impossible to sell something that you really don't believe in. And so how does the homeowner win with a maintenance agreement? What is it that the homeowner is worried about? They're worried, is their system going to make it through the next peak heat or peak season? They're worried, are they going to have expensive repairs that are just like a ticking time bomb? They might be worried, how long is this system going to last? Am I doing everything that I can? Just any other issues that are going on in their house. It's a peace of mind and other benefits that go into the maintenance agreement. So the homeowner will believe in it as well if you as the technician and you as the company also believe in it. All right. So why most companies struggle with maintenance agreements? Another reason, they don't run an amazing maintenance visit experience. if we think about something that we're all familiar with doing maintenance on, like our vehicle, right? There's maintenance like oil changes and tire rotations, and you have some options on what you could do, right? If you need the oil change and the tire rotated, you could go to the little local, corner kind of garage, right? Which is oftentimes maybe kind of dirty, doesn't necessarily have a lobby. You're not quite sure who you're communicating with, or maybe it was a struggle booking an appointment with them. You kind of just have to show up, and every time you try to go, there's a long line there.
Maybe there's a TV to watch. Maybe there's not.
Maybe not. Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's just a vending machine right there, or you can take it to like your dealership, which might have a dedicated service advisor. They might have a shuttle that takes you over to some shopping or some restaurants. They might have, I see that in the chat, the free coffee, the donuts. The one that I go to has a really nice lounge with Wi-Fi and workstations, and I can just set up my computer and work from there. That's what I'm talking about, an amazing experience, a red carpet level experience. Has thought been put into the whole visit, from the pre-call communication to the on-the-way communication, the first impression, what we're doing when we're there, so that the homeowner is like, I don't ever want to work with another company again. This is the one for me. And the way they formalize and finalize that relationship is through a maintenance agreement. They're basically saying, yes, this is the company that I want to do business with. Yes, I want to have you come out to my house 2 times a year, because this is an amazing experience. And so this is not going to happen by accident. This is not going to just kind of fall. The puzzle pieces don't accidentally come together. On this, it's a very intentional process to follow. And we want to follow that process any reason why we're out at the house. A lot of times our opportunity is because of a demand issue where the homeowner needs us. So we show up for the demand. Are we running an amazing experience that shows them the value of what a maintenance visit looks like? And so they're like, this completely makes sense to me. I want you to do this. So we really need to look at if we understand the win-win-win and there is value, and we truly believe that, there's value, now we need to switch our attention to how do we show that there's value? How are we communicating? What questions are we asking? Are we taking photos? Are we taking videos? Going back to the car dealership experience, the last time I took my wife's car in for some routine maintenance, they texted me all these videos of what they were doing and what they were looking at. And it just elevated my feeling of engagement and feeling of part of the process of, I don't have to guess what's going on with my car back there. There was value to doing that maintenance visit there on the car. I could see how they were cleaning some things up and taking care of things. They were showing me what they were doing. Okay, the next reason why companies struggle with this, the technicians aren't incentivized. So at the first side of this, right, how do we incentivize? First, the first half of it is selling and renewing them. And so the companies that tend to not have very many maintenance agreement customers tend to not have very strong incentives in place. The spiffs, the bonuses, commissions, whatever words you want to use. Something that makes it where you want to, make sure you do as good of a job as possible on it. And so what we found is somewhere around 20% of the whatever you're selling that maintenance agreement for. So if you're selling it for $200, I'm just going to throw that number out there. The spiff or the incentive would be somewhere around 40, right? Somewhere around 20% is what we found elicits the highest levels of motivation and kind of engagement to want to get good at selling these. And if you start selling these at a good percentage, that can be a great additional revenue stream. But the other half of this is, are they incentivized to view these as opportunities, or do they view running a maintenance as kind of like a punishment? I hear these from technicians of, oh man, I have 4 maintenance visits on my board today. Like, why do they keep sending me to these? Or I've got 4 visits today and they're all systems that are under 5 or 6 years old. This is a waste of my time. Why am I not getting the opportunities of some others? This can lead to technicians leaving this could lead to a lot of lower morale versus actually understanding that there are so much opportunity on that maintenance visit on a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old system. There are tons of opportunities there. All the market research shows, and just my anecdotal evidence that I have of working through with technicians, that the homeowner most interested and willing to spend money on IAQ products, on add-ons, upgrading the thermostat, cleaning out the ductwork, adding products in the house like air cleaners and upgraded media filters. The customer most likely to do that is a customer with a system less than 5 years old. And I know it seems like it's paradoxical because they just spent all this money on a new system. But think about it, when we have a brand new vehicle, isn't that when we wash it the most, when we tint the windows, when we do things to it, and we view it as protecting our investment, right? So there's actually so much opportunity on these visits. And the technicians need to be incentivized to believe that as well and follow through on it. Okay, getting into another reason. The companies aren't tracking and measuring. So we're not maybe internally seeing the value of what's happening on these visits. We're not seeing the close rates. We're maybe not aware of trends and things that are happening. But even at the most basic level, are we even tracking our maintenance agreement close rate? So what does that mean? If we, over the course of the year, if we're a technician and we run, let's say 1,000 calls, that's an average of 4 a day throughout the year, how many maintenance agreements should we see come out of that? Are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? The KPI that we found, when a technician is bought in, when they're properly incentivized and they're trained to follow a process that delivers an amazing experience, we should see somewhere around a 40 to 45% close rate. So again, if we go run 1,000 calls, we visit 1,000 new homeowners, we should have added potentially 400 to 500 new maintenance agreement customers. Are we tracking that? I can look at a company's close rate and pretty much understand exactly what's going on. Most companies, again, when I start working with them and when we start working with them, are closing somewhere around 2 to 3%. That is the typical industry average on maintenance agreement close rates, is around 2 to 3%. That means we're not even really trying. We probably don't have good maintenance agreement documents and tools and things uploaded, right? Edward, we were talking earlier about how, utilizing like Workies, get everything loaded in there, set how the customer is going to pay for it, if they're going to do payments, if it's going to be at once, how many visits, like preset all of that so that that it makes it as easy as possible for the technician to have these conversations. And they're not struggling with a homeowner who wants to sign up and I don't have access to a document. I got to call the office. And so that's usually what's going on when I see that below 5% close rate. When the close rate is below 20%, it means that some of these things are in place. We're getting better. It's just we're not consistently having this conversation on every single call that we go on. We're picking and choosing. We're picking, I think this person might be interested in it. I think this person might not be interested in it. And we're pre-deciding for the homeowner. When we get to those 40 to 50% close rates, we have a consistent process where this is a part of every visit that we go into. Again, and the tools like Workies make it easy for us to do this. Edward, I saw you come off mute. We're going to weigh in on that.
Oh, no. I was going to say that there was a question, but unless you feel like fielding questions.
Oh, I see it, about the close rate.
Yeah, well, the close rate monthly, and then there was another question around, how do you know if you have, things priced correctly? Like, I guess maybe he was referring to the price of the service.
The price of the maintenance agreement.
How do I really know if I'm charging a fair price for that?
Yeah, it's pricing these are great questions. Pricing a maintenance agreement is different than pricing a repair or pricing equipment, because all the margins and everything are way different. It's not really a calculation about that. Versus if I'm building out a flat rate price book for somebody, this is a very mathematical equation that we're going through. Mm-hmm. When we're pricing a maintenance agreement, it's a little bit more about kind of understanding the market and what is kind of going on in the market. We don't really want to be the lowest price maintenance agreement in the market. We don't want that at all. And we don't really want to necessarily be the highest one either. So kind of finding that sweet spot, but again, tracking. If we're closing 60, 70, 80%, maybe we aren't charging enough for it. If we're just struggling to close, maybe we're charging, maybe we've outshot, a little bit and really kind of dialing it in. So it's a little bit more of an art than a science versus on repairs and equipment. It's a longer conversation of looking at a lot of data. As far as like the close rate for monthly or yearly, this is just in general, like when we're looking at back on the year, we want to be somewhere around that. Different months will have different close rates because during the summer or during the demand season, that is our biggest opportunity. That is when we're in front of the most customers who don't have maintenance. The close rate should be much higher. And then when we're in front of the slower seasons, when maybe we're only in front of maintenance agreement customers, it's just by nature of that going to be lower. So it is sort of when we look at the year in total that we're looking at that 40 to 45% close rates.
Yeah.
I'm getting, go ahead, Edward.
All right. I just wanted to ask you one thing about that, because I'm thinking back, even though I'm in Toronto today, I live in Central Texas. It is hot there in the summertime. We just had one of the most ridiculously hot summers on record. I don't know. It was like over 110 degrees for like 50 days straight. So these guys are struggling to keep up with the demand that they have, right? And to your point, great time to sell a service maintenance agreement. Do you think that it helps though? Like when I'm facing this really hefty bill and I'm like, whoa, man, that sucks. If I'm selling the service agreement, which gives me, maybe a 10% discount off of that repair, like, is it nice
absolutely.
to bundle those types of features into your service agreement because it's almost going to ensure a very smooth transition in selling that?
Absolutely. It's got to be kind of like the cherry on top though, that I also get a discount, because a lot of times if the repair is extensive enough, the discount might mostly cover the price of the maintenance agreement or really like bring the price of that down. There still needs to be though that the homeowner values the maintenance agreement by itself, and they're not only just buying it for the discount, because what we'll find there is they did it just for the discount and now they're going to cancel later, or they're not going to make that renewal. So the maintenance agreement itself still needs to be of value. And one of the ways to do that is if you're there because something broke, ask them, hey, when's the last time you had maintenance on this?
Yeah.
And if that's a customer who hasn't, or it's been a long time, right, that's helping them understand that there's a good chance that the reason why they're in this emergency is because they weren't doing routine maintenance, connecting that piece together. So I know there's a few more questions here in the chat. I'm actually going to table a few of these questions for a little bit later.
I think that might make sense for sure.
Because they're great questions.
Questions might be answered as you proceed.
Absolutely. So, there's a few in here, though, I want to make sure we get to. So what should we track and measure? Everything. Right? We need to have the ability to not only do our close rate, but specifically when we run a maintenance visit, what's our close rate on different things? What's our close rate on selling systems off of a maintenance visit versus a demand visit? We need to also just know what is our maintenance average ticket. For a lot of companies, it's all kind of like mixed together a little bit, and we need to separate demand average ticket, maintenance average ticket, and tune-up average ticket. There was a question I'm going to get to in a bit, but the question was about offering a one-time tune-up to get in the door, and the answer is absolutely. But we need to track that rate. We need to track that close rate. What's our close rate off of a demand visit versus off of these one-time tune-ups? All right. So just a few more here, and then we can open it up for questions. So another reason why companies struggle with this, the company just in general is not practicing pipeline management. And if they're not practicing pipeline management, they have a leaky pipeline. Pipeline management is this idea of we want to have customers all the way through all of the phases and cycles of their system. We want to be interacting with them and visiting them when the system is young, like I said, like 0 to 5 years old, and have a specific strategy for what we're going to do there to build value. As that system ages into the next quadrant of 6 to 9 years old, we need a specific strategy there that's different. But we're still visiting them. And the way that we do this, right, is through constantly selling and renewing the maintenances. We need to have a strategy for when the system is 10 to 14 years old, and a strategy for when it gets into kind of the harvest season, which is 14, 15 years old and upwards. All of these center around the idea of a maintenance. A leaky pipeline is, we visited 300 new people during the demand season. What percent of those did we capture into the pipeline? Is it most of them? Is it very few of them? Or is it a very leaky pipeline? The ultimate sign of a leaky pipeline is, do we have really slow months? And if we do, then that's a symptom of leaks in the pipeline. So really getting good and getting the technicians and everyone in the field and the office all on the same page about pipeline management and making it a high priority for the technicians is, again, this idea of why a lot of companies struggle is because they're not practicing pipeline management. Okay. Another big reason is we're not outbound calling year round. And calling is an important part of it, picking up the phone and dialing it. But this could be emails going out. This could be text messages going out. Edward, you and I were talking previously before we hopped on here about utilizing like all the automations and things within a platform like Workies, so that we're not just sitting around waiting for the homeowner and the customer to initiate some type of contact. Because if we sit around and wait, they're really only going to initiate contact when something's going wrong, like a breakdown of some sort in their system. If we're taking the initiative, it could be a happy call. Hey, we were out there 3 months ago. We made a repair. How's everything been going since then?
Yeah.
Right? Just that opens up the door to getting back into the house. It could be, again, obviously we want to reach out to our maintenance agreement customers. Hey, it's been 6-7 months. You're due. Which works best, mornings or afternoons? And Edward, the idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, if you don't mind, could you actually throw in some examples too, like, on what an outbound call or text or email might look like if I'm trying to build an initiative around something beyond just HVAC? We love HVAC, but there were a couple of comments about, well, I'm an electrician. What might that look like for me? Or I'm a plumber. What could that look like? Or I run a handyman service.
Sure.
What are some things that we could be doing for outside of HVAC to try to generate this type of activity?
Yeah, this concept is not unique to HVAC. I know a lot of plumbing companies that utilize this very well, electrical. But even just think of your dentist. your dentist utilizes this concept extremely well, right? They're the masters of this idea of the preventative work, the preventative visit, the cleaning, right? So for any mechanical system, what is the number one reason why it fails? It's dirt. It gets dirty, right? That is the number one reason why any type of mechanical system fails, is outside elements get introduced to it. And so whatever our line of work is, we got to have this issue of what can be done that's preventative. Because things are going to get dirty. They need to be cleaned. They need to, and that's a striking visual too, when I talk about the amazing experience, when we can show the person the difference between clean and dirty. Here's what it looked like before. Again, I go back to the dentist. My dentist, when I go for my twice a year, takes photos inside my mouth. This is what it looked like at the start of the visit. This is what it looks like now. Isn't this amazing? Don't you want us to do this again? Yeah, I want you to do it again. Let's schedule it 6 months out. So yeah, there's so many different industries we could speak to, but philosophically, it's this idea of, are we showing value? Are we keeping things clean and operating? And do we believe that there's value in it? And can we show it to the homeowner? This idea of the year round, right? In this company's example, when do we see them stop running maintenances? right? The maintenance is they don't. There's a piece of this too of if we wait for the slow time, oh, it's slow. We need to, it's too late. Right? The phone stopped ringing. We need to do so. It's too late. So even when it's busy, depending on the whatever the industry is, calling when it's busy and kind of anticipating when it historically doesn't get busy, and start scheduling them. Start scheduling this visits out. Constantly reaching out, not again waiting. We refer to it as the gas pedal and the brake, because we can see here that yes, when demand spikes, do we start to brake a little bit? Yes. But because it's year round, as soon as demand dips, it's responsive, right? It's lined up exactly. Versus if we're in a reactive, there's always going to be gaps. And in a business that needs to maintain staffing, needs to maintain marketing budget, needs to maintain other things, we can't have those gaps. We need consistent and predictable cash flow coming into the business. There was a question earlier that actually, while I have this visual up, is a great time to address it. The one-time tune-up to get in the door. Yes, that's what we see here with this blue. So, for instance, with this company, we can see when they turn on their marketing and they're starting to market around a one-time visit, right? It ramps up, right? Kind of in the January, February, March, which is the slowest time for this business. So they ramp it up so that they can convert those into maintenances. And then they ramp it back down, and they understand the cycle of their customer and their weather and their climate. Right. But yeah, we don't stop running maintenance. We don't want to get out of the habit of how to run a maintenance as well. A lot of times a technician goes through a busy demand season and they kind of forget. It's like an analogy would be like a doctor who maybe does a 6-month stint in the ER and now is going to go back to like family practice.
Yeah.
Right. The conversations are different. The mannerisms are different. The approach is different. The concerns are different. And it might take them a while to ramp up. Meanwhile, it's slow and cash isn't coming in. We don't have the time to ramp up. If we run them year round, we always keep that muscle memory of how to do it and keep those skills fresh. Okay. And you mentioned it earlier, Edward. When is our best opportunity? It's whenever our demand season is. That's going to be, but what happens during demand season is we lose sight of the goal. We lose sight, and maintenance agreements fall off of our radar. And then it repeats the cycle. Slow season, feast, famine, until we break the cycle. And during the feast, we sell maintenance agreements so that we put visits on the board as we get out of that demand cycle. Okay, so I'm going to summarize and then we can take questions. So just to summarize, the 3 keys to selling a maintenance agreement. We need to believe in them, and we need to believe in the act of practicing pipeline management. We need to incentivize and consistently coach. That comes from tracking and measuring. We're aware that somebody's close rate's dipping. We're aware that the average ticket isn't where we need to be because we're tracking, and so we can coach what's going on. And then we follow a process that includes questions that uncover the maintenance agreement as a solution to the problem. In my experience, a lot of the times the approach to selling a maintenance agreement is no different than a door-to-door salesperson. It's, hey, sorry to interrupt. Could I interest you in? And that's rarely going to work. And the version of that at the house is the technician did the repair or they did whatever they were there for. They're kind of about to pack up and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to try to sell maintenance agreements. Hey, homeowner. Hey, by the way, have you heard about our maintenance program? And it's rarely going to work. The close rates are going to be low because the homeowner doesn't see that as actually solving any of their problems. They see it as a sales pitch or a sales presentation.
Yeah.
Instead, we want the maintenance agreement to be a solution to something the homeowner already wants to solve. So now when we're going through our options of, hey, we could replace this, we could clean this, we could also do those things and get you on a maintenance, which is not only going to get you a discount there, but it's going to prevent this from happening in the future. So you don't have to go through this pain that you experience today. Right? So it's a solution to a problem. I want to shamelessly plug my podcast right here, the podcast that we do at SBE, where I interview technicians, service techs. And so if you whip out your phone, just like you're at a restaurant and there's a QR code and pull up the menu, this will take you to a few options. But specifically this episode, if you go to episode 29, I talked with a technician who went from running the meat counter at the grocery store to 2 to 3 months later, averaging $600 to $700 on maintenance visits, having never worked in HVAC. And she speaks to the things that I was talking about: believing, buying in, being taught a process to go and follow, and just sort of her experience with customer service of working at the grocery store and dealing with customers. She takes that skill. She understands the amazing experience piece. And so if you want to hear directly from a technician, check out that podcast and episode. There's a lot of other episodes as well, but that one in particular, 29. Here's a review that I pulled actually off of the company's Google page. Kylie's a very meticulous service person. She explained what she was doing, showed us pictures of what she found. She did a great job. All right, so that speaks to a process that she follows. This isn't by accident. People oftentimes like checklists. So if you want to, everyone wants to snap a photo of this real quick, here's the action plan that you can implement, because summer is if you're in HVAC, summer's a few months out. Let's not let this summer go by without taking an advantage of the rush. So get bought in, coach and train to a process, create incentives and games. A great way when it's busy, like I said, it's easy to lose focus. Create some games. It can be just contests around who sells the most or who has the best close rate with some cool prize, and make it fun. Track and measure everything, practice pipeline management, and then just start to implement the idea of we're a maintenance company. We're going to run these year round. Demand service and equipment sales or anything else, that's the cherry on top. We're a maintenance company. If anyone wants more help on this, we're happy to talk with them. They can also scan this a QR code to have a further conversation about this topic or other topics.
And also, as an FYI, we will be sending a copy of this presentation out along with the recording of the call. So again, you'll be able to reference all of this information, share amongst the rest of your team and organization. So absolutely. We'll also send out a link. So if anyone is interested in being able to get their hands on information just like this, as well as a myriad of other, amazing things that can truly help you elevate your business and your operations, we'll give you an opportunity to find out more about SBE, because it is an amazing organization. And this is just tip of the iceberg as far as the type of training that these guys provide to their customers. And that's one of the reasons why Workies is working with SBE now. In addition to that, I'm going to shamelessly plug Workies here for a second, because Derek, you said I could do that, right? So
Absolutely.
You would kind of hit the nail on the head pretty well about a couple of different things. Like one thing I was thinking as you were speaking was like, I wonder if sometimes it's a difficulty for people to sell service agreements because it's not easily accessible to them,
Yes.
like through their field service management software. And I was like, well, duh, yeah, I know that, because I was at AHR a month ago in Chicago, and I remember talking to a contractor who said, we sell service maintenance agreements, but we're tracking it all through an Excel spreadsheet. And then to schedule those appointments requires, me picking up the phone, my dispatchers trying to get things on the book, right?
Yeah, that's tough.
That's insane, right? So if I as a technician could just simply click a button on my phone and say, yeah, and by the way, you're going to get 10% off today, and I can offer this to you annually, quarterly, monthly. That's how Workies sets it up, and I think there's a lot of other software that probably has similar methodologies, but we just want it to be super simple. If you're using Workies as your field service management platform, you do have the ability to come in, customize a service maintenance agreement. The customer can actually go online to our portal be able to schedule the dates that they want you to come out and visit. Now, somebody asked a question in chat, which I want to address. Even if I select a date, and there's snow on the ground, I'm not going to be able to make it out. Obviously, as a part of your business process, you are calling these folks to confirm those dates and times. At the end of the day, I'm looking at that as nothing more than a lead. If I'm running a business, I want to capture as many leads as humanly possible, whether it's coming in off of my website or, maybe it was Facebook, Yelp, any number of ways that I'm advertising, even service maintenance visits. I'm kind of thinking of them as leads initially, because I've got to call, confirm that, find out like this is what we're doing. And then somebody else might have different expectations. They're like, no, actually, for the electrical contractors that are on this call, I want to get into massive home automation too. Can you help me with that? I'm saying this right now because it's something I actually want to do, Or, hey, by the way, you guys do plumbing as well, because I was just told my hot water heater needs to be flushed. I can't get hot enough water, I've been waiting for you guys to come out so you can take a look at that. Well, yes, Ed, I can help you with that. So, a lot of different things. Workies just wants to make it super easy for you to implement service maintenance agreements. So when we send all of this out, folks, we'll also send you a link so you can find out more about SBE, and you can also sign up for a demo of Workies so we can show you how cool our software is, how much time it can save you, and how to better sell service maintenance agreements.
Yeah, it's so important. You need the tools and the resources and the technology to make it as easy as possible. So it really just comes down to now again, give the amazing experience, ask all the right questions, make it a solution, and boom, you're ready to go. The customer doesn't have to go through any hoops or hurdles or any obstacles, and then you're ready to capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hit up some of the questions here.
Yeah, there's a few that I want to get to.
Here. I wanted to start off first just to address Ed Warminski had asked us a question. Derek, you may have some resources on this. Do you know of a place where you could obtain like templates for maintenance agreements, scope work? Now it sounds like Ed's in a junk removal type of business, and I think we actually might be able to help you with that, Ed.
There you go.
We have some documented resources that could specifically help you. But Derek, let's talk about the other trades. Like, if I were to join SBE as a member of SBE, do you provide templates for service maintenance?
Yep. Every company that joins us and works with us will build out the maintenance agreement. It can be for HVAC, it could be for plumbing, dual. You do both. You add electricity, and then we can build that out. Create the checklist that the technicians are going to follow on those visits, and create all of everything that goes into that. So we don't want the people we work with to have to reinvent wheels. We want to get up and going quickly. Right. So we definitely have access to build those out.
There was another question too. Logan Howard, he was saying, I don't see a lot of maintenance service agreements for gutter companies. What do you suggest? I'm already thinking of an answer to this, and I'm no gutter expert, Logan. I would sign up for one. Absolutely.
I would too.
To have
just
to
even make it as a homeowner, make it easy for me. I know that they need to get cleaned, and all that. Absolutely, just build it in.
Yeah, I would do that all day long. And you're talking to a guy that is king for signing up for this stuff. And I forget that I even have it too. Like, I just found out I was paying for Hulu for the last 18 months. Who would have known?
Hey, there you go.
But Another question from Jason Harmon. Would you call other companies to get a feel on where your maintenance agreement should be priced? Is that something you would ever suggest, Derek?
Yeah. So I just want to be clear about this, because I don't ever recommend doing this for like service, like repair prices and equipment prices, because other companies' math is not your math, and you need to build those actually on your math. But when it comes to the maintenance agreement, like I said, it's a little bit different. I would do some market research on what people are charging, and just sort of, I work with companies, and the other coaches and trainers here, we work with companies all over North America. It seems like the average for an HVAC one right now is somewhere around 250 to 275 a year for 2 visits. So that's kind of an average, some below that, some above that, but just to maybe kind of get a general idea of where we should be pricing these maintenance agreements.
Gotcha. So those were direct questions that were asked, but there's a ton of questions in the chat, and I know you said you had some you wanted to address.
Yeah.
Eric, so
There was a few that I saw that popped up. One was about if just kind of concerns about if we're incentivizing the technician with an aggressive spiff, and we're giving a discount to the homeowner. Are we losing money on that call? Is this a bad business idea, basically, to do that? And I actually think that this topic ties into a bit about the belief in the maintenance agreement and really buying into this idea, because the value in this is the opportunity of when you go and run that. So in order to get that visit, in order to get this visit, you need to incentivize the person to sell it. You might need to give a discount to the homeowner to get into this opportunity. And now it's all about what happens when you actually go and run that maintenance visit. I work with technicians, HVAC technicians, that average $1,000 a ticket when they go and run these maintenances. The company is not losing money on this. This is a very profitable revenue source. I know plumbers that average $1,000, $1,200 when they go run this, because it's such an amazing, thorough, detailed visit where the homeowner gets to understand everything that's going on with their particular system. So that's again what ties into the belief. It's not about the profit made on the actual transaction of buying it. It's about getting because maybe a different way to think about it is how much would you spend in advertising to get to go into somebody's house, right? To get a lot of companies these days are spending $200, $300, $400 for customer acquisition costs just to get in the house. This is cheaper than that. This is cheaper than advertising.
Oh, I mean, it's not out of the question, as it pertains to HVAC, to spend even $1,000 to get a good system installation.
So these are way cheaper leads. So it's not about that interaction. It's about what you do with it. And so, yes, it would be a loss of money if the techs go and run these and nothing happens, because they're not viewing it as an opportunity and they don't have a good process to follow when they go and run it.
And coming from a SaaS company, software as a service, I always liken it to, you're kind of running a SaaS company. When you start thinking about it, you're like, hey, you've got the same exact thing that all of us do, is a reoccurring revenue stream. This is billing out for $40 a month or whatever the number might be, right? And so it may not necessarily be profitable up front because you had to pay a spiff commission on it, et cetera. But, you can't ignore Derek's point that the opportunities that are going to come later, and the fact that you're keeping this sticky relationship with the customer, they remember you. You are their guy. You got to have a guy, right? Well, I got a guy, and he text messages me every so often to say, hey, how's it going? And by the way, I've got this cool promotion. Now, don't be annoying about it, because there's definitely, you can set up too many automations. Like if I get another text message from, I forget if it's my manufacturer or my refrigerator, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never doing business with your customer service. But, sometimes people can go overkill, but it is so important to just keep a sticky relationship. What about some of the other questions that you had seen? Because I don't want to keep everybody on too terribly long here, but I definitely wanted to make sure we had a chance to answer some more questions. I know one that had popped up. Let's see here. And it was about outbound calling during the slower months. Clients being excited to hear from you again. Yeah, because you're keeping in touch with them. I think that was more just a comment than a question. Let's see.
Especially if this is just really important, because a lot of companies say, no, we tried outbound and it didn't work. Or, we tried outbound and we didn't get any results from it. And just like we need a process to follow when we go and run these maintenance visits, those who are making the outbound call need a solid script and approach. Like I said, a lot of times this shouldn't just be hey, Mrs. Smith, can I sell you a maintenance agreement? It's more relationship building than that. It's Mrs. Smith, we were out there last summer because you had that your system went down and we were out there last summer. Did we take care of you? Has there been any issues since then? Great. I'm happy to hear that. Since I have you, since it has been 6 to 7 months, your system's actually due for some maintenance.
Yeah.
Right. And be able to transition in it versus just sell. Right. It's relationship build first. Make it warm. Make sure that they're happy. Make sure that you took care of them the time before. And if they're happy about that, they're going to want you to come back out, and they're going to potentially, want you to get ahead of, maybe they learned their lesson from waiting until the system broke the previous time. So it's having a solid strategy when we outbound.
Now, here's a really important question I wanted to address from John D. He wondered, do we work with small businesses? What size does the company need to be? So I'll answer first from the Workies side. Yeah, absolutely. We'll work with you, even if you're an independent owner operator. Like, there is no company that is too small to work for Workies or with Workies rather. And then Derek, as far as SBE is concerned, if you're going to provide coaching services for companies, is there a certain business size that you're typically working with?
I mean, if they have people interacting with customers, there's someone we can work with. So
I think we were a good fit to work with one another. There's some software platforms out there, we don't have to name any names, where they really try to scare you away unless you are also a 900-pound gorilla. And there's also coaching organizations out there that will do the very same thing. But one of the reasons rather that I think SBE and Workies are great partners is that our ideal client profile very much looks the same. We want to grow with you. We want to be a part of your success story to say, you know what? It was just me, and then I hired a guy, and then I had 2 guys, and then I had 15 guys, and it's awesome to
I love that. One of my favorite groups to talk about was a few years ago, a father and son in Arkansas. Just the 2 of them had never done as a company more than $400,000 in a year.
Yeah,
they were just kind of tired of that. They wanted something more. They wanted something better. And just with focusing on really these things that we're talking about here, the next year they were able to do $1 million. The year after that, they went up to $2.5 million. And now they've been tracking more towards $3 million. Because it's just getting organized and getting help and not trying to do everything themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any other questions in particular? Let's see.
I think we hit some of them, as we were going through. The one thing, maybe the one that I can mention is someone mentioned about, running maintenances year round, and maybe their maintenance requires a certain type of weather in order to do that. And, potentially on that, but also though, I mentioned the main purpose of this, does the customer understand that the number one thing that is going to impact the quality of their mechanical system and the life of it is dirt. So is the visit primarily built around keeping things clean, spotting things, keeping an eye on things? This is starting to get dirty. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's check in on it again in 6 months. It's more building that versus, maybe I think sometimes companies paint themselves in the corners that it's like a fall and a spring, or it's a cold and a hot, or it's something that's relying on outside factors or controls. And I would just encourage people not to frame it that way with their customers, not to paint themselves into any corners of it's a preventative maintenance. For plumbing, I like to call it a home health and safety inspection. Even into the electrical, right? A safety inspection. And these aren't reliant on any outside factors, right? It's a routine visit, just like the dentist visit.
Yeah. There was another question from Marion who wanted to know if we work with appliance repair companies. So I can confidently answer on the Workies side, yes, absolutely. We have appliance repair contractors. Fun fact for everyone that's still listening here, we actually started off as a software company that catered towards the locksmith industry. Both of our founders ran very successful locksmith business in Southern California. One of them just so happens to be a software engineer. And he was like, man, I am so tired of FSM, platforms that do not work the way that I want them to work. So I'm going to write my own. And there, Workies was born. And ever since then, every other industry has been like, wow, this is really cool. Oh, man, finally, something where I don't need a PhD to run it, And I also saw some comments in there about how we continue to improve. It is very true. Almost monthly, we're rolling out new updates, and we're very intentional about our development. All developmental efforts, it's like we don't just roll something out because it's nice to have. We want to roll something out because it's nice to have, but it's also going to help you make money and be more efficient. And that is what is really, really, really important. And all at a very affordable price point. We focus on strategic partnerships with organizations like SBE, who can also provide value to customers. Currently today, SBE is pretty much only focused on HVAC, plumbing, electrical, but we can definitely let you know if there's opportunities there in the future. Again, this is a partnership, and we're going to be communicating very, tightly with one another. So really appreciate all of the questions. If anyone else has any questions, please don't hesitate. We still have a couple of minutes live on air, but wanted to thank you so much. Derek, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we sign off today?
If this is resonating with people, I just want to encourage them to, especially if they're HVAC, right? Don't let another summer go by without starting to implement these things, because otherwise they'll have to wait until the next one comes around. And again, they're going to go through that. They're going to be stuck in that feast famine, and it doesn't have to be that way. They can keep the board full year round by really taking advantage of when it is busy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, appreciate it very much. Again, thank you for everyone joining us today. We're going to go ahead and send this out, recording, copy of the presentation, links for you to find out more about SBE, as well as to get a demo of Workies if you haven't seen it yet. And we would love to have the opportunity to help you better run your business. And let's all get out there and make some money together.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great day.